The Rochester Board of Education is proud to present the Yes We Can Award to the Northeast College Preparatory High School. In 2015, Northeast's four-year graduation rate had fallen to 38%. By August of 2020, it rose to a projected 72%.
All right now.
While graduation rate is but one measure, this steady upward trajectory headlines the substantial improvement work at Northeast. The school has made demonstrable improvement each year of receivership, while mitigating many significant challenges. We applaud the Northeast school community for their ongoing efforts to ensure student academic success. Please join me in congratulating Northeast school community. And with that, my President White will take over from there.
Well, do we have, thank you, Commissioner Adams. Do we have some of the representatives from the school here?
Yes, we do.
Could maybe you introduce them and give them an opportunity to say a few words?
Yes, I can. We were together a little while ago. I'll start off with Dr. Kirsten Pryor.
I love your handing out doctorates there, Commissioner Adams. Wow. I love what you just said, that you were just with us about an hour ago with our community engagement team and our student voice committees, because I think that was a great segue into what this work really represents for us. So I think we're really proud of the work over the past few years, and we also, because we know the potential of our young people in our community, we see how much farther we have to go, but we really appreciate the collective work that's gone into it, and you all for recognizing that. So Mr. Passero or Mr. Burrows, I don't know who wants to.
You can pass it off to Ms. Burrows.
Good evening. My name is Nakaya Burrows. I'm one of the assistant principals at Northeast. And I just want to thank you all for acknowledging and recognizing us tonight. We really appreciate it. It's been a lot of hard work and dedication, and it's just nice to see the fruits of our labor. We understand there's a lot more that we have to do, but we are just honored to be in a position to see lots of progress. So thank you again for the opportunity tonight.
Ms. Breedlove.
Dr. Passero.
I was gonna have Ms. Breedlove say hi, and then I'll jump in at the end.
Okay, so I'm Noelle Breedlove. I'm the community school coordinator over at Northeast. And I just want to say that we have a very hardworking team, and they've done a lot to get us to where we are. And we're just very thankful for all of the hard work that everyone puts into everything. So thank you for this honor.
And I just want Dave Passero, principal, and I just want to say thank you to our students and our staff that have put in all that hard work. Thank you to the Board of Education, our superintendent, Dr. Leslie Meyer-Small, our school chief, Sheila Webster, who is incredibly supportive. So grateful to work with her. This is our first step. We plan to be a school in good standing, a school that brings honor to the name of Frederick Douglass. We want you to get ready for student voice, because that's part of what we're doing there. It's about student advocacy. And we're going to start a revolution that's built on the voices of the students of Rochester. So thank you all.
Pretty impressive. Geez. Thank you, Commissioner Adams, for bringing their wonderful work to our attention. Sheila, do you want to say a few words?
I do, Commissioner White. I was trying really hard.
Oh, she's frozen.
I just want
Don't do
to.
that.
I just really want to thank the Northeast team. I'm so proud of them because they are such a united team that will do anything and everything for the students and the families they serve. If you haven't had a chance to go visit Northeast, I really encourage you to do that. And I look forward to hearing their student voices elevate and the ability of those students to continue to inspire all of us adults to achieve what many might think to be impossible. So Nothing is impossible when you can lift it together. So on behalf of the Office of School Chiefs, really want to recognize the Northeast team and thank them for their tireless efforts and inspiration for us all.
Thank you very much. Let me just say, years ago, that campus has been subject to a number of different efforts. And it is really, and before you all got there, it was really struggling. And that's reflected in what Commissioner Adams said, the history. But what I'm struck by is the humility and the steadiness of your voices and the determination in your voices. That is the kind of leadership, not the kind of leadership that responds to different press announcements and different numbers from moment to moment, day to day, but it provides a steady leadership. And I see that in you all, and the board is extremely appreciative of that, because over the long haul, it's not the one-time headline, it's the progress that a team makes over a period of time. So to Ms. Webster, to Mr. Passero, to Ms. Breedlove, to Ms. Burrows, and to Kirsten, thank you all for your work. Really, the board cannot thank you enough. And lest we forget as a board, and we don't often, but sometimes we do, behind all of this is the parents. The parents are getting those kids, those little ones to school, providing them the support and guidance that they need, listening to you all, and you all listening to them. So again, on behalf of the Board of Education, we do this Yes We Can award because we want to recognize that this stuff doesn't happen by people on their own. Nobody gets to shore by rowing, which is one oar. It's got to be a collective effort. And you all have done us proud in terms of the progress you've made. So continue to do that and know that we will be in your prayers, and also know, like Commissioner Adams, invite us and we will be there to participate. But thank you, Commissioner Adams. We don't want to miss thanking you as well. Yes.
So Van, I do have one thing I need
Yes,
to
sir.
say. I've been a part of a few set teams in the district. That's community engagement team. And Northeast is the first one that I see to have student involvement. And so I just had to shout them out for that. Tip my hat to them.
You know, our meeting doesn't start until 6:30, so we have a few moments. Commissioner Adams raises a good point about best practices. Is there anything else in addition to what he has just said for folks watching, your colleagues, parents, citizens? Anybody on the team there want to recommend or identify the things that you think are making it work, why you can together have made it work? Anybody want to offer any insights to folks listening, your colleagues, parents, community leaders? Again, Commissioner Adams gave an example. Does anybody have any additional examples?
I'd like to hear from Nakaya, because Nakaya's been here, I think the longest out of this group. So I'd like to hear from her.
Well, I would say, especially with our leadership team, I think we have taken on a lot of roles, gone to lots of training to understand different, just to broaden our understanding of school functioning outside of just leadership. So most of our administrators can speak to you about credits, graduation, all different types of experiences that most people would attribute to being a counselor's role or a social worker's role. And I think just having that overall understanding has allowed us to develop a better rapport with our students and our families. We're also very dedicated. We hit the streets, we're at homes, we're making phone calls, we're doing whatever is necessary to see growth in our students. And we have a family model at our school. So that's one thing a lot of people compliment us on, the fact that we go the extra mile and we really embrace the family model. And I think that has contributed to our success over the years.
Yeah, I would just say the relationships from administration to our clerical staff to our teachers. I mean, you can see that there's strong relationships with students, and relationships are really the center of the function at Northeast. And I think that's a critical feature that is, it's a little bit different at Northeast with those relationships and that mutual respect. because that's not the case everywhere. That mutual respect between teachers and students and staff as a general, that's a big important one. The other thing that I would just add on to it is exactly what Nakaya said, that cohort tracking model where there's attention to every single detail of every single class that every single student needs. There's a great emphasis placed on that. We meet weekly as grade level teams to just identify those students and the supports that they need in order to gain that credit. And everything's not hunky-dory, everything's not perfect, but it's just the positive steps that we've been taking together in unison, and that the staff over the years has put in incredibly hard work.
Excellent, excellent. Any other comments by anybody else, the staff there?
I'm just going to be kind of facetious and tell you
Sure.
that most of the leadership team is RCSD graduates. So I think that's
Okay, all right. That's the secret sauce right there.
not the only secret sauce, but it's great.
Okay,
to see.
all right, all right. We'll take that. We'll take that as a compliment as a district. That's right. All right. Well, again, thank you for doing us proud and providing hope for folks. Because when schools are successful the way you are, when you're able to turn it around, other people can look and say, "Hey, we can do that." And how they come to that conclusion is they listen to you all. And I hope there were some folks listening to the excellent leadership and that is taking place at that school. So God bless. Enjoy the holidays. Stay safe, and we'll see you next year. Tom, I think we stay on this thing and then we come back out. How are you going to want to do it, Tom, until our meeting starts 6:30? Or Kalia?
That's correct.
All right. All right. We'll see everybody at 6:30.
Yep, we have another link.
Good evening, everybody. Today is December the 17th, 2020, and you are participating, at least virtually, in a meeting of the Board of Education. If you happen to have one of the screens that I have, you can see your elected members of the Board of Education and a whole host of other people who are part of making this district a better district, a district that can better serve the citizens, including parents and students. And today is part of that effort. And as always, we begin that effort with a reading of the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, since we're virtual, everybody's in their homes. I see our clerk is in front of her. She just turned off her screen. I was just going to comment on your beautiful Christmas tree back there. So we're all in different places, but we're all here together virtually. So I'm just going to turn my laptop towards my little flag there. You see Frederick Douglass there in the background. And I'm just going to say the Pledge of Allegiance and would encourage those who want to join me, and those who don't want to. That's what America is all about. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We try also at the beginning of our board meetings to recognize that there are those that may have struggles and challenges in their lives. Many of my colleagues have experienced those challenges themselves and in their families. And so we know that there are personally, not just professionally, we know personally there are people out there who are struggling, even before COVID, because we've had a moment of silence for those folks long before COVID was a part of our lives. But COVID, my colleagues and I understand, makes life even more challenging and more difficult for some folks out there. We could literally go on and on with our personal and headline stories about the loss that people have suffered. We don't need to do that. We hear that enough on a day-to-day basis on the regular. I would just ask on behalf of my colleagues that you set aside maybe a few moments before we begin our business and think about those challenges and be prayerful and thoughtful for those who are trying to meet those challenges. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, I understand you have some information to give the citizens of this community and my colleagues about things that are coming up in terms of the Board of Education and the Rochester City School District.
Yes, I do. So I'm trying to share my screen. I'm noticing I'm not able to do that right now. Give me 1 second.
Take your time.
All right, so I'm bringing up on the screen, these are our upcoming events. We try as much as possible to share with the public things that are coming up. This is the final board meeting or meeting of the board for 2020. But in the new year, we will be back with everyone on January 4th at 6 p.m. That's when the board will have its organizational meeting. And then we actually have quite a bit of meetings in January and a lot of PD sessions. This is because we are looking forward to a very intense budget season where there'll be lots of different events that have been added to our calendar. And so we are preparing for that by doing board PD. You'll find that the special meeting on the organizational meeting, my apologies, that takes place on the 4th will be followed by a board PD on Robert's Rules. We encourage our public to join us. It should be very informative. Then we will have our special meeting on January 5th, a convening of the Policy and Governance Committees of the Whole. And then we will have our special meeting on the ESA, which is our academics committee, that takes place on the 12th. There will be a PD session there on data and accountability. We will have our finance committee on the 19th. And in finance, we will have a PD session on title funds and budgetary practices. And then we will have our business meeting on the 21st of January. And following that, we'll have our special meeting of CIGR and HR committees. And following, during the HR committee, we will have a PD session on collective bargaining. So for anyone in the public who is interested in these topics, we do encourage you to join us They should be very informative and you'll learn a lot. And those are our upcoming events for January 2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Appreciate it, folks. If folks wanted access to that calendar, is that on board docs or is that on our website? How would folks, if they couldn't take notes fast enough tonight, where would they find that calendar of events? Is it available?
It is available. We have them available on the website. It will be on the district's calendar. Actually, they should be there right now. Also on our website, if you go to the boards tab, there is a calendar that does list all of the board's events, especially if persons are just interested in just board events, but they should be folded into the district's calendar on rcsdk12.org.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is acceptance of board minutes. Again, for folks who perhaps don't follow the board meetings, and maybe this is your first board meeting, for folks who do go to meetings and board meetings, you know that somebody's sitting there taking notes about what happens, and then those notes have to be approved later on. So at the beginning part of our meetings, we take a motion from one of our colleagues that says, hey, listen, I've reviewed these minutes. They're pretty accurate, they're accurate, and we need to approve them and put them in our records. And so that's what's about to happen. So I'm gonna list a series of meetings that have taken place, and then one of my colleagues will say, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Somebody will second it. That's what these Robert's Rules of Orders require. And then the board will vote on whether those minutes are acceptable or not. So I need a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of September the 19th.
Motion.
I'm just going to read a bunch of minutes first. Give me a second. November the 19th, 2020, September 24th, 2020, which happened to be a charter school public hearing meeting that we convened. November the 30th was a state monitor's public hearing, and December the 10th, 2020 was one of our special meetings. I heard Commissioner Malloy make a motion, and I think I heard Vice President Elliott second it. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. All right, all those in favor of approving those minutes, please make sure your video camera is on and indicate that you approve those minutes by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So for those watching, that means those minutes become a part of our permanent record. Next item on our agenda is speakers forum. For those who may be tuning in for the first time, the board thinks it's very important that we hear from citizens. Most of us, Commissioner Adams gave a great example. He was at a meeting before he came here today. Most of us, all of us, spend time out in the community, whether we're at schools, whether we're at grocery stores, and we do engage with folks. But we try to set aside a formal time in our meeting so that people can take to the podium and speak. Now, I got to warn you, nobody, generally speaking, we don't respond. And the reason why we don't respond is we don't want to get in debates or arguments or even find ourselves agreeing glowingly with what people say. We just want to hear citizens. So that's what these 3 minutes are about. Each citizen is given 3 minutes and they can speak their mind. And then if they have written comments, they can submit them. And we'll give you a little more detail on that later on. So Madam Clerk, I think we have one speaker.
Correct. We have one speaker with us, Kristen French, who will be addressing the board about the reopening of schools. Ms. French?
Hello. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. One of the new RCSD priorities is to create innovative opportunities for family engagement. And there are simple ways to create connections that are not being done right now. For example, if family engagement is critical, then a district-wide robocall would have gone out prior to each of the fiscal monitor's public hearings. The slides to the presentation would have been posted prior to the hearing and not afterwards. And the hearings would have been presented separately on 2 different days, academics, then eventually financial, as it's outlined in Chapter 56, Part C. Instead, these topics were combined, which seems to violate this legislation. In addition, the resolution for the final vote on the improvement plan was submitted very close to the meeting and was not available on the board docs prior to the meeting. I know because I spoke that night and I looked right before the meeting started to see the order of speakers and to see if any resolutions were laying off my colleagues. All that was posted at the time was Resolution 502 and 503 in reference to a staff retirement and an appointment of another staff member. Then that evening, the media surprisingly reported the board voted to approve the plans with no public written notification of the reasoning for late submission. This process does not strengthen connections, it instead fosters distrust. The other piece I wanted to discuss was the reopening date for phase 1. Having staff and students go back while positive COVID numbers are rising is absurd on its own. Then making it even more asinine is giving no time for staff to get proper training on how to manage the new district and school-wide protocols during a global pandemic. Families will send their children to school without having staff proactively practice the procedures for getting off the bus, taking temperatures, monitoring the optional mask guidance, how to eat safely, how to move in the hallways, how to properly assist medically and physically fragile students, and how to regularly clean with the 2 soft cloths that we have been given. Imagine if we had at least an additional week to practice how to newly instruct, communicate with families, and to create a video ahead of time for students of what their schools would look like to help make the transition safer and easier. Instead, there's a rush to make unreasonable and ludicrous decisions, such as requiring hundreds of additional staff to report to buildings during times when they have no students to instruct. Why? This will only create more dangerous learning and working conditions. This morning, I immediately thought of the 99% of the district community that do not get to have a fair say in most decisions when I was reading a passage from Sean King's book, Make Change. It said, "It's the increased frequency of these inhumane attacks that make our current environment so overwhelming. But it is essential that we fight back. As we grieve and we try to keep ourselves from falling off the cliff into a place of total despair, we must find a way to move from desperation to organization. And while that's no easy pivot, our very survival depends on doing this together." Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. French. We appreciate your comments tonight.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, now you know what I'm going to ask you on behalf of the board. How if a person wanted to make a statement like Ms. French or wanted to provide something in writing, how or where would they do that?
Well, I am going to share my screen once more. Speakers who wish to address the board, we do encourage you to do so by emailing us or calling us. You may do so by calling the board office or emailing boardof.education@rcsdk12.org by noon of the day of the meeting. If you also have comments, you may do so by emailing that same address, and we will ensure that all board members are provided your comments, and the comments are also posted to our website. We also want to let persons know that we are still recruiting and the new year is coming up. We encourage persons to continue to apply for our parent rep positions, and you may do so on our website as well. Parents and grandparents and legal guardians are able to apply.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
President?
Yep. Yes, Commissioner Powell.
While this slide is being shown, I'd like to reiterate what I've said before. The audit committee makeup includes the option to have a community member. That community member does not have to be a parent, but they do have to possess some minimal skills in the area of accounting or audit or something along those lines. So I just wanted to share that that's not exclusive to the parent community.
I'm sorry, Van.
No, go ahead.
I would like to, I guess, ask a question about that on record, primarily because when I was the audit chair, we did have a professional person with a finance audit background that served on the committee, but there was also community members that used to attend those meetings. And I guess I just want some clarity that could be acts on the board log and then answered to the public. I just recall that there were specific people that I know that used to attend the meetings for audit.
Mr. President, I'm happy to offer an answer.
Sure, go ahead.
The state law requires that the committee is, it essentially allows that committee to serve like executive session with closed door. The chair of the committee has the opportunity to invite anyone that they wish or make it as open as they wish, but that's not a requirement of the law. It's one of the few occasions where some of what happens in a public entity happens behind closed doors.
So again, I would like that question answered again, because of me being the previous chair for audit, knowing that there were community members that served on that committee and came, I just would like clarity on the record.
As someone from the administration, can they provide an answer? I don't know if it would be Steve or. Steve, would that be you?
We'll document it on the question log. I
Okay.
believe I'll forward
Yeah, I want it on the
forward
question
to
log.
Anissa,
All right.
to Anissa and to
on a work
Steve.
call.
What'd you say, Steve?
I said I was on a work call. I'm sorry. I just heard you calling my name.
Oh, no, that's all right. We've got a solution. It'll be on the question log, and we'll make sure that someone gets a response, additional response to Commissioner LeBron's question.
Thanks.
Okay, just for folks out there listening, we have a number of committees. That's how the board does a lot of its work offline, offsite. All of our meetings don't take place at these special meetings. We have Audit Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Powell. You just heard that. Finance is chaired by Commissioner LeBron. Governance is chaired by Commissioner Malloy. Policy is chaired by Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Adams chairs the Committee on Intergovernmental Relations, and Vice President Elliott chairs the Human Relations Committee. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did. All right, I think I'm good. All right, so as our clerk said, there are opportunities to serve on each of these committees. Some of them already have parent reps, but you can always come to any one of these meetings. And finally, let me repeat, in addition to the committees, in addition to speaking out, every one of the board members that you see in this Brady Bunch picture, if you have it, is accessible by phone or by email. And again, before COVID, all of us visited schools. You can still catch us at Wegmans and Tops and other places where we shop and live just like the rest of you all folks. So please engage us where and when you find us. All right, next item on the agenda is advisory council reports. And actually that's a good segue, because another way we stay engaged with citizens in this community is we have advisory council reports. We have Student Leadership Congress, the Parent Advisory Council. Actually, they've changed their name, and we're going to hear that in a second. And the Bilingual Education Council. You can also join and contribute to these bodies as well. But let's hear first from Ms. Simmons, who is head of our Student Leadership Congress. Ms. Simmons, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello, my name is Anaya Simmons. I am president of Student Leadership Congress, and this is the official report for Student Leadership Congress's last meeting on December 9th of 2020. On our agenda, we had introductions, a community check-in, the superintendent's forum, an RCSD Black History event, the FAFSA collaboration, and an open dialogue. At this meeting, we had representatives, from School Without Walls, School of the Arts, World of Inquiry, Edison Career and Technology, East Upper School, and Northeast College High School in attendance. During our community check-in, our scholars showed their optimism for the remainder of the school year because of their academic achievement. Athletes on the call explained how they were excited to see the district's initiative for winter sports coming back. Students were able to open up about recent deaths and the loneliness that follows with remote learning, although students are excited for the winter break away from school. During this meeting, Superintendent Myra Smalls was able to present a list of ideas and future plans she would like to get student input on. She explained the reopening plans again, telling us the latest family input of going back to school, along with how the district plans to handle sports. The idea of creating an additional magnet school, having cabinet members present during our meetings, and a couple of other projects she would like to work with the Congress and I on for student perspectives. We were able to meet with Mr. Ricky Frazier, who was able to tell us and explain the panel series that the RCSD will be hosting for and during Black History Month. The students on the call were able to generate a lot of ideas for this panel. Some ideas students came up with were generational advice for how to combat systemic racism, colorism, cultural identity when mixed, Black empowerment, and representation in politics. On the call, we were also joined by Ms. Crystal Clark, who was helpful in explaining the possible partnership with youth leadership through social media. Events like the FAFSA-a-thon are great student opportunities that can use more promotion. The collaboration of youth voices and social media for such events could create a powerful inspiration. During open dialogue, students in the meeting explained how they would like to see more next step readiness, whether that is in higher education or creating more opportunities straight out of high school. Some schools explained the importance of their capstone classes entailing a period of research, job opportunities, and other necessary life skills for leading an independent life. Schools looking at this opportunity can reach out to me for more information about this class. A representative of the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, JROTC, shared that they are recruiting. This is a program designed to give students leadership roles and a beginning training experience for a military life after high school. On Sunday, I attended the community-wide Youth Leadership Coalition run by Kilolo Maya White of Rock the Future. This is an initiative that is supporting youth leaders from various community programs in Rochester to develop new leadership abilities and provide unique opportunities for our growth. I've continued to work on a playground project in the Beechwood neighborhood with Hannah Shippey and Commissioner LeBron from Common Ground Health to possibly provide a place for schools in the area to have a social distancing rope adventure course experience for gym class. We will soon be asking for youth 13 plus interested in architecture and skills and leadership to reach out to join our youth committee. I, along with a group of World of Inquiry students, will be presenting for the Hinge Neighborhood Project on December 22nd, which I invite you all to attend. It will be beginning at 3:30 and the closing meeting is unsure, but I would like you to attend so you can see what we have been working on. The presentation is to show what community members, what environment school-age residents would like to see in the area they go to school. President White, at this time, I am in support of resolutions 549, requesting funding for the School of the Arts auditions, and 550, requesting financial support to give greater resources to the online credit recovery students. On behalf of those students, thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Very impressive. I wish I could deliver reports like that. Well done. Thank you very much. And I know my colleagues appreciate your recommendations with respect to resolutions 549 and 550. That is very helpful. And I ask that my colleagues take note of that. I'll try to remember that when we get to 549 and 550, but thank you for that recommendation. It's very helpful to hear what the students believe is important. All right, next item on the agenda is we're going to hear from Mr. Binns, who is, as I understand it, the newly elected leader of our it's not called the Parent Advisory Council. Mr. Binns, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We certainly can. You want to tell us the name of the parent, what used to be known as the Parent Advisory Council, and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kenyon Binns. I'm the acting president of what is now the Parent Leadership Advisory Council. So we threw leadership in there. Okay.
All right, so why don't you, folks may not be used to this because we haven't had a report from this parent leadership group in a while. So if you'd like to offer any comment, I know you guys are just getting started, but if you want to offer any comment or insight, we appreciate you being here today, but want to add some commentary tonight, that'd be good. Otherwise, we'll wait until next month where you guys have had a chance to get started.
Well, I have a couple things. I'll be very brief. We've decided I'm going to be the acting president. Sasha Lewis is going to be the vice president. Rebecca Hetherington is going to be an acting secretary at this time. Sasha's going to work on a binder of resources for parents. One of the things that we've come across is that parents don't know where to go to get help or where to find resources. So Sasha came up with the idea to try to make PLAC kind of the reservoir for that. I'm just going to talk about three things that seem to come up regularly in our meetings, in our brief existence. Number one is frustration with the high turnover of superintendents at the city school district. Everybody knows that that's an issue. It comes up regularly, and we're curious how that's going to change, or if it's going to change. Number two, obviously, is the upcoming hybrid school plan and if it's going to be safe for our kids. And number three is Dr. Jallo's work as state monitor and how it's actually being implemented. Like I said, I'm going to be brief, and that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Binns, but I should ask you, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where your kids go to school, that sort of thing?
Yeah, brilliant. I should have started with that. I have a girl at 15 school. So I have one child, she's at 15 school in pre-K 4. So my wife and I are brand new to the district. She was in pre-K 3 last year. So we're just getting our feet wet with the district.
Well, Mr. Binns, I know I speak on behalf of the entire board for you to have jumped into the water this early on in your career, your children's career in school is quite a a commitment and a sacrifice, and we appreciate your leadership. And you have probably an idea of what that means to people who might be watching, an engaged and involved parent whose kids are very early on in the system, making a commitment to ask questions to make that district better for his child. So on behalf of the board, thank you so much. And please invite us to your meetings. We, in the past, were regularly scheduled at the Parent Advisory Council meetings, and board members would show up and you could ask us questions and we could have dialogue. So I would encourage you and your colleagues in your new leadership role to, if you want, put us on the agenda and we will come there and meet with you all, okay? Thanks again. Commissioner Powell?
Before we move on, I have a quick question for Mr. Binns. Are you far enough along in your new organization to have bylaws, new charter that the board can ratify? Or is that still to come?
Okay, I'm a little confused. We, at least a month ago, I thought that our bylaws were either approved or in the process of being approved. So we've done all our edits. We went through months of going back and forth and kind of rewriting the bylaws. So
I'll tell you what, I'll look at it from our end, and if it hasn't been presented to the board yet, then I'll see what the holdup is, okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Just by way of a little background, Mr. Binns, you probably did not have a chance to meet him, but we had a general counsel. His name was Carl Christoph. He did a lot of. Did you meet him?
Yes.
Yeah, he did a lot of that work that Commissioner Powell's referring to. You probably work with him on those bylaws. So we'll get an update on that because our rules, our bylaws require that your bylaws are approved by the board. So Steve, I don't know if you had if he passed the baton to you on that.
No, I just made a note of it. I did not know that they were, if they're still in the works over here. So I'll take a look.
Okay, so as Commissioner Powell said, Mr. Binns, someone probably contacting you to figure out where those bylaws are at. And I'm sure it'll just be a matter of a formality because I know that Mr. Christoph was really engaged in that process. And I see Dr. Myers shaking her head. So we'll get you an update on that, make sure we're all on the same page on that.
Yeah, I
right.
received those, President White, and there were no issues with me. So I think it's just a matter of with the transition of Carl, we'll get it moved forward.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for reminding us of that, Commissioner Powell. Again, Mr. Binns, thank you very much on behalf of the board for taking the time to make this serious commitment to the leadership of this district, okay?
President White.
No problem
yes,
at all.
ma'am.
Yeah,
Vice President Elliott?
Yeah, I just wanted to also welcome Mr. Binns, but also to say to you as representative of the parent leadership group that that you all really reach out into the schools for parents. When I've talked to parents in the past, they were not aware of the group. And so if there's some way that you all can really reach out to the schools to get, parents involved, I think that would be a true feat because parents were not aware of this level of engagement that they could serve on this group. So I welcome you, and if you all can work on that, I think that would be a feat that you all can, that you all can work towards. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda would normally be we would hear from our Bilingual Education Council. Although there's not a written report tonight, I am sure the folks that have been involved for quite a while are tied up doing some other stuff, but I'm sure we will hear from them at our next meeting. They've been very faithful about their service to this district. And for those of you who don't know, Mr. Clark, I know you are I don't think you've heard the Bilingual Council yet, but they are very regular participants in improving this district. So they give regular reports. So I hope that we'll get one from them next week.
Hey, President White?
Meeting. Yes, ma'am.
Are they regularly meeting?
I see
Like,
Commissioner LeBron and our clerk shaking their heads yes. So
is it possible that I can have an invitation to their next meeting?
I think
Or
they are
is it-
meeting in person, actually. I believe they are meeting in person, not electronic, not virtually, sorry.
I
Do you,
see.
do you want the link, I mean, the information for next month's meeting, Commissioner Elliott?
I want to be able to attend the meetings.
Yeah, I'll get you the info
Yeah, yeah.
for next month.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Myers, were you going to say something? I see Deputy Superintendent Martinez is shaking her head as well.
Sure, I'll let Melody take this. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, President White, Vice President Elliott, and our commissioners. Yeah, we are still meeting. Last meeting, because of the number of COVID cases in the city, the meeting was canceled, but we did do a drive-through of giving students backpacks and different other items. So, and we actually had a quarterly meeting with the BEC Executive Cabinet last week as well. So the next meeting that it was scheduled for January, I believe that one will be canceled as well. It's the Three Kings celebration, Three Kings Day celebration. And as of right now, it is canceled due to the large number of COVID cases in the Rochester area. They do not meet in Zoom, they meet in person. So we will make sure to send that information to all our board members.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda are board reports, and we'll begin with audit. Commissioner Powell, do you have a report? You're muted.
Sorry, thank you.
All right.
I do have a report. It is posted to board docs. In summary, the audit committee convened as a committee of the whole on Tuesday, December 8th. The committee met with external auditor Catherine Barrett from Freed Maxick to discuss the results of the financial audit for the year ending June 30th, 2020. The audited financial information and related audit opinions are included in the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, which has been provided to all board members electronically and by mail. Ms. Barrett presented highlights and discussed key financial items identified during the annual financial audit. And she also responded to various questions from the board regarding financial results. Resolution 572 is requesting the board to formally accept the independent auditor's report and student activity report from Freed Maxick, and which are contained in the CAFR for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, and directs the report to be filed with the Commissioner of Education and State Comptroller. If it please you, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 572 at this time.
I have no opposition to that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. All those in favor of approving the resolution as described by Commissioner Powell indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposition?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just need Commissioner Adams to come on screen, I'm sorry, for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any opposition? Just let me take the opposition vote. All right, there being no opposition, that resolution has passed. Commissioner Powell, you were going to say something else?
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry I stepped all over you.
That's all right.
The next audit committee meeting is March 23rd, 2021, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Next up is our Finance and Resource Allocation Committee report. Commissioner LeBron.
Yep, I'm going to read it. I have two screens up. So the Finance Committee convened on Tuesday, December 15, 2020 as Committee of the Whole via Zoom video conferencing. The Finance Committee recommends the approval of the district's unaudited November 2020 financial report. The Finance Committee discussed during the December meeting focused on a variety of topics and several discussions were entertained. The Finance Committee conducted a brief resolution review to vet the resolutions with fiscal impact that are slated for consideration in tonight's December 17th business meeting. CFO Carlene Pierce presented to the board on the state of the district's finance. She advised about the district's budget and the revenue and expenditure trends, provided clarity on the current budget gap and the district's financial forecast. Additionally, CFO Pierce detailed information on the fund balance and clarified the various fund allocations. Ms. Pierce also touched on the upcoming 2021-22 budget development process, and what is to be expected as the district prepares to launch into the new year. Finally, the committee also discussed the following policies and provided suggested amendments: purchasing policy, policy number 6700, budget policy, policy number 6110, the new budget transfer policy, policy 6150, and the fund balance, policy 6500. The suggestions provided in the December meeting will be folded into the current policies via track changes and will be discussed further in the January finance meeting. These policies must be addressed quickly in order to stay in compliance with the adopted state monitor's fiscal and academic plans adopted by the district on December 1st. The next finance committee meeting is January 19th, 2020. Thank you.
Just need a motion for the financial
report.
Yeah. Can I make the motion or do I have to ask for a motion? I'll make the motion.
It has been moved by Commissioner LeBron and seconded by Commissioner Malloy. All those in favor of approving the November 2020 financial report indicate by turning on your screens and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Commissioner LeBron, I assume you said that concluded your report?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Commissioner Malloy with the Governance Committee report. Commissioner Malloy.
Thank you. Thank you. The Governance Committee met as a committee of the whole on Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. Topics during the meeting featured a presentation by our Chief of Communications and Intergovernmental and Community Relations, Marisol Ramos-Lopez. Ms. Ramos-Lopez reviewed changes to the resolution development process that are hoped to positively impact the consideration of action items by the board during special and business meetings. The changes proposed addressed problems identified in the process like late resolutions, incomplete, incorrect, and misleading resolutions, board member frustrations, and concerns shared by the independent monitor. Ms. Lopez detailed a phase-in process during her presentation. Phase 1 was explained in detail and features changes to the resolution submission calendar, resolution packet updates, and inclusion of financial analysis and new strategic plan priorities to resolution language. Phase 1 has begun and will continue to be rolled out over the upcoming weeks. Phase 2 will include full utilization of board docs, and more information will be shared on this as received. We also continued our discussions that originally started in the October governance meeting regarding the findings of the board meeting poll. This poll documents how board members perceive meeting performance in the areas of timeliness, board meeting materials, participation, our standards of conduct, meeting chair effectiveness, and board impact. The feedback gathered from these discussions will be utilized to update the poll questions. So it's intended that a new poll will be launched in January of 2021. The governance meeting also featured discussions regarding our updates to the communications protocol between district administration and board. And our meeting concluded with a review of the professional development calendar for board members. The upcoming professional development sessions are as follows. First and foremost, we will have a professional development on Robert's Rules of Order conducted by Acting General Counsel Steve Carling on January 4th, 2021, following our organizational meeting. We will have a professional development on academic data and accountability conducted by Deputy Superintendent Dr. Janelle Morris on January 12th during the ESA committee. Our professional development on title funds and grants will be conducted by our Executive Director of Grants and Programming, Carrie Pecor, and Director of Financial Management and Grants, Glendine Miller, on January 19th, 2021. And finally, our professional development on collective bargaining will be conducted by our Chief of Human Capital Initiatives, I got it right, Christopher Miller, and our Acting General Counsel Carling on January 26, 2021 during the HR committee. You may notice that the professional development calendar is condensed in the beginning of the year, and this has been conscientiously done in order to prepare for the district's active budget session. which will be picking up in March of 2021. The next governance committee will be Tuesday, January 5th at 5:30 p.m. And that concludes the governance report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Finally, we have Commissioner Clark delivering the report for Policy Committee.
Thank you, President White. The Policy Committee did meet as a committee of the whole, and we met on December 1st, Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. At our meeting, board staff provided a presentation on the proposed manual update process. We reviewed the presentation and we provided feedback and agreed on a proposed process to move forward. And our process will begin in January 2021. And we're proposing that it will last approximately 3 years. And finally, as far as committee of the whole, our acting general counsel, Steve Carlin, provided information on the required New York State School Board Association policy updates. And specifically, he indicated that our current record retention policy allows for the required changes to the records retention schedule without any changes to our current policy. Also wanted to indicate that we met as a subcommittee on yesterday, and at that committee meeting, we were also joined by our superintendent, and thank you, Dr. Myers-Small. And we looked at the priority as to how we're going to begin to address the policy manual. We decided that we will begin with the special education part of the manual, and then we prioritize some of the others, and you'll see that as the updates come out. But I did want to indicate that we are planning to begin the process in January. It's an aggressive process. We're looking at taking the policies in chunks of 8. And if we're successful, we will be able to complete this in a 3-year period. Also, I wanted to indicate that our next policy committee meeting of the whole will be Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. And before I end, I do want to indicate that we did also agree that we will have bi-weekly meetings on Wednesdays from 4 to 5 p.m. to address the review of the policies. And we also took into consideration the information that we received from the other commissioners. And we will be ensuring that all key members have input into the policy review process. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Adams, you want to add something regarding the Committee on Intergovernmental Relations?
Yeah, good evening. As you may recall, on November 3rd, December 1st, and December 8th, we reviewed the proposed legislative agenda. If there ain't no more questions or additions to this document, I'm asking for a motion to accept the 2021 legislative agenda.
Motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner LeBron, seconded by Vice President Elliott. All those in favor of approving the legislative agenda as described by Commissioner Adams, as put together by the entire board, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Commissioner Adams, it appears that your legislative agenda, our legislative agenda, has been approved.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adams, you allowed us to eliminate some stuff on, actually, I think it was on unfinished business. We were going to address that, but now I can cross that off our agenda. Thank you, sir. All right. Finally, there is my report. I will attempt to be brief. I want to, on behalf of the entire Board of Education, I want to thank central office staff for their effort to raise funds for those who are struggling with the challenges of COVID and perhaps attendant issues like unemployment. Their work cannot be, we cannot thank them enough for their work. We realize that in the end, the money that members throughout this district contributed probably will not make the challenges go away, but certainly the thought that there are caring colleagues that want to try to make a difference in their colleagues' lives has to have some value. So beyond a gift card. So on behalf of the Board of Education, we want to say to the staff that took the time and the effort to put together this bit of relief for their colleagues, their families, and the district. The Board of Education says thank you. And specifically, we want to call them out by name: Francine, Maurice, Rhonda, India, Diane, Joseph, and Maria. Thank you for your work. Thank you for taking the time to go above and beyond the call of duty, because you understand that there are people who are in need, and these people are your family members. That is, they're members of the Rochester City School District. Thank you very much on behalf of the Board of Education. There is much need for relief, and there are a lot of other people that could be doing a lot more than our staff is able to do, like people in Congress. During the course of my meetings over the last several weeks, in fact, you all have my calendar from November the 16th to December the 11th. There's references to the Council of Great City Schools. What a wonderful organization that we're a part of. They really do push those folks in Washington to do their jobs and to provide the much needed pandemic relief that we see. I've provided you all some updates about that over the course of the last week. You all can, in addition to reading my updates, you of course can watch any newscasts and see that looks like the folks in the Senate and Congress are working feverishly to provide the kind of relief that folks need. That as I understand it, the last rendition of that package is just short of $1 trillion. And it does, again, this is the last version I saw, it does include some aid for schools. Whether that's going to be direct aid or whether the governor or other folks could use that as an offset, that is not really clear. I know there are advocates pushing for direct aid to schools. So it leapfrogs the governor's office, so it cannot be used as an offset. No offense to the governor, because I know he has a lot of work to do and a lot of important work to do, but we need this money. And I'm hoping, and I know you all are hoping too, that there's some direct aid to schools. We are called LEAs, and the legislation, I hope, says that we get that money directly. We can only keep our fingers crossed and watch the newscast when we go home tonight, because I suspect that the answer is going to come shortly. This district, as a result of your support and encouragement, has written at least 3 letters to our locally elected officials and encouraged them to do the important work of providing the legislative pandemic relief that citizens need. One unprecedented letter that was sent out as a result of leadership in the district and the city and the county was a letter signed by, I don't think, I don't recall that it's ever been done, certainly not in my years on the board, where members of the county ledge, we didn't get any Republicans to sign it, but members of the county ledge, members of city council, and members of the school board got together and signed a letter to our leaders in Washington and said, hey, listen, this aid is very critical. Very proud of that. And I thank our former colleague over there at City Hall, I doubt he's watching, Malik Evans, he was instrumental in that, in the 3-on-3-on-3. Commissioner LeBron was a part of those meetings where we all came up with this idea that we should send this letter. Commissioner Adams was a part of that a meeting as well. And I want to thank Ms. Wade, who helped me draft the letter that we were charged with writing. And actually, Ms. Wade and I's letter was approved by all those different members of those different bodies. So again, much of this work that we do as board members is in fact done by our staff. So Ms. Wade, for the umpteenth time, as they used to say, thank you very much for your work. And finally, I would note that, and I probably could have said this earlier, this aid is essential. Our work that our staff is doing to provide support for other folks is essential. You all know this, 12.6 million people are unemployed as a result of this pandemic. 5.4 million people are uninsured as a result of this pandemic. And if the federal aid ends, the aid that supports folks, 9.1 million people will be affected as a result of the loss of benefits. So the work that our staff is doing to get gift cards and the work that people are doing in Washington is critical to this effort. I'm hoping in my next report, if there is such a report, that I will be able to deliver to you all the good news that our folks in Washington, our folks in Albany, and most importantly, the folks here in Rochester came through for those who are struggling as a result of COVID. And that concludes my report. All right, next item on the agenda is our superintendent reports. Leslie, I think we'll begin with you if that's okay.
Sure, thank you very much. As we're waiting for the PowerPoint presentation to load, I wanted to say good evening to President White, Vice President Elliott, all of our commissioners and staff, and those who are watching. I do have a full report tonight, but I will go through it expediently. I'm going to share a little bit about district matters, and I also am going to share a few student and staff activities, as well as student and staff acknowledgements. The first thing that I'll share with you this evening is our district reopening plan. And we are excited to welcome students back in grades K through 12 and specialized services. The January 5th start date is new. It was originally January 4th, as we're allowing staff to visit classrooms in their buildings between now and January 4th, and for any needed classroom setup. The number of students that we have returning in this phase is 325 students. Next slide. The district, also with our district reopening plan, we want to share that a little over 2 weeks ago, we asked for feedback from parents to share with us their choice of either a hybrid model with 2 days of in-person instruction or to stay fully remote. If a family did not respond and there was significant outreach, students would remain in remote learning. And as you can see on the next slide, the overwhelming majority of families continue to support remote learning. So on this slide, you can see the hybrid numbers reflect the student population who selected the hybrid option. The remote numbers, however, reflect the student population who not only selected the remote option, those families who were undecided at that time, and then those who did not respond. To our board commissioners, we will announce final details of what phase 2 and phase 3 looks like prior to students and staff heading into the winter break. The New York State Department of Education did approve both the academic and fiscal independent monitor reports. We were notified on December 11th via email from Interim Commissioner Rosa. In that letter, she articulates a timeline for reporting parameters. We will be working obviously very close with the Board of Education, with the board staff to make sure that we move forward. And this certainly was a collaboration between board staff and administrative staff to make sure that all of the items from the board were noted and included. And we will have a detailed presentation at the January 2021 Governance Committee meeting. Many of you were aware and heard about the Racial Equity Challenge that was sponsored by the United Way. I want to certainly thank all of our staff who took part in the challenge. This was an opportunity for us to help our staff continue to grow when it comes to racial awareness, issues of social justice, and systemic inequities. We had 240 participants in the Rochester City School District who signed up for the challenge. And of those 240 participants, 50 participated in a debrief via Zoom. I have to share that there were many, many stories that were shared during this time. People were very transparent, and they discussed how the 21-day challenge impacted their belief systems and made them focus on how to combat implicit bias. Many also discussed the sincere desire as far as next steps of putting into action what they learned. And then several of our staff members have discussed of having either bi-monthly or monthly check-ins at the school level. I want to thank Elizabeth Reyes and Crystal Clark, both in the Department of Student Services, who led this important project for our district. The Urban League of Rochester, which I know Commissioner Clark is very familiar with, sponsors many activities and events that support our scholars. In particular, yesterday, Wednesday, December 16th, over 2,000 high school students from across the greater Rochester area were recognized for their academic achievements at the 36th Annual Urban League of Rochester's Early Recognition virtual ceremony. 503 of that over 2,000 students were students from the Rochester City School District, and they were acknowledged for their hard work and scholarly dedication. Just as a reminder, the Black Scholar Program provides recognition, assistance, and incentives to students who achieve a cumulative grade point average of a B or better in high school. So students are early recognition scholars in 9th through 11th grade. And then as long as they maintain that B or higher average, they are an actual Urban League Black Scholar. I would like to certainly recognize the donors who provided scholarships to not only our students, but those students across Rochester. And this year's keynote, we should be extremely proud, was Diamond Guy, who is a senior majoring in biomedical science at the Rochester Institute of Technology. Miss Guy, while she was born in New York City, she was raised in Rochester, where she graduated from School of the Arts and was an Urban League Black Scholar in 2016. I am honored to also share that I am a 1987 Urban League Black Scholar, and I was very humbled to provide remarks during the virtual recognition. I do remember more than 30 years ago when it was announced that I would receive the University of Rochester Urban League 4-year scholarship. And for me and my family, that was huge because it enabled me to actualize my dreams of going to a prestigious 4-year university. I am so proud of all of the accomplishments of our scholars, but particularly those who are in the Rochester City School District. And in my remarks, I just simply encourage them to keep striving, learning, participating, and believing, and stretching themselves to continue towards academic excellence. So congratulations to all scholars, and specifically those in the from the Rochester City School District. These two faces, even though they're masked, should be familiar because we just recognized them. The Board of Education just recognized them with an award and acknowledgement. But as we all know, Rochester is extremely proud to have a history of social justice and education. And we know that Frederick Douglass was a famous abolitionist writer and statesman. And more of our students now in the Rochester City School District will understand and know that. We would like to thank the Daisy Marquis Jones Foundation and the Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives for a donation that will help our students know more about our famous and longtime Rochester resident. Over 1,000 copies of the book, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, was donated by the Daisy Marquis Jones Foundation and Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives, and those books have been generously forwarded to students in the Rochester City School District. These books will be used by 11th grade students in 10 Rochester City School District high schools, including the East Upper, EPO, and once students return to in-person learning, they will use the book as an autobiography, tongue-tied, and it's part of the 11th grade New York State U.S. History Framework. So thank you for that generous donation. One more student acknowledgement. I'm sure you saw in social media that 29 students from both Rochester and Buffalo helped to author the book Green Card Voices. And this includes 4 former students of the Bilingual Language and Literacy Academy. Typically, the stories focus on immigrant students. However, they gave Rochester City School District students who were impacted by Hurricane Maria an opportunity to tell their stories of displacement. So congratulations to our former Rochester City School District students. I'd next like to acknowledge on the next 2 slides staff. First, Diane Jordan, congratulations. Ms. Jordan is a special education teacher at School 29, and she was a recent recipient of the Golden Apple Award from News Channel 8. Diane has been teaching for 37 years, and she was recognized for creating a classroom environment that is engaging, caring, and rigorous. She also teaches her students sign language as another form of communication so they can use it regularly and they embed it throughout their learning. It is extremely heartwarming to see a Rochester City School District teacher receive this award, especially someone who is teaching our special education students in a remote environment. We also want to acknowledge our staff at school number 17, administrators, custodial, food service, and security staff. Last week on December 9th, staff members at this school found a child who had been outside all night and had been suffering from exposure to cold. These individuals immediately brought the child into the building, warmed her up, fed her, put warm clothes on her, and made her feel safe. Once inside, the child was quickly reunited with her family. This is just one of the many examples of everyday heroes in our own district. I want to publicly thank them for their quick thinking, for their care, and for their concern. So kudos to our staff at School 17. And then finally, this is the holiday season of December, and I mailed holiday cards out to both internal and external stakeholders. And rather, if you'd go to that next slide, and rather than have communications, create cards, or buy cards, we featured 4 of our students across the district and their holiday artwork. And so you can see Maurice Miller from School 25, Lilith Coate from School 17, Josh Juwan from School number 25, and Isaiah from School 10. Their cards went out across not only the city of Rochester, across the county, but across the state and the nation. And so each of these students, they received cards so that their family could have mementos of their amazing artistic work. We also gave cards to our board commissioners if they wanted to share holiday cheer. So I again would like to just acknowledge these 4 incredible students who, and it was hard to narrow it down to 4 because we have very talented students across the district. That concludes my December report. I'd like to wish everyone a happy holiday, and I look forward to seeing everyone in 2021. That concludes my report, President White. You're muted.
For those of you who don't know, technologically, what happens is sometimes I guess the folks behind the screen mute us, and we don't know that. So we kind of at the last minute try to go, oh, I'm muted. So I see Vice President Elliott has a question.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just some comments, basically, with regard to the 21-day racial challenge, and we had, 240 of our staff to participate in that. That's to be commended. But I just want to share a story when I was in the 7th grade that I hope resonates. I was going to school 14, and we were in a home economics class where there was a white teacher and the majority of the students in the class were students of color. And we were doing a meal. And, you know, where white people just have, for the most part, macaroni and cheese as a protein, you know, as their main thing. You know, we told as students back then in 7th grade, and we said, well, you know, we don't do just macaroni and cheese. You know, we do ribs or some, you know, some chicken, we barbecue that. And to her, to her credit, she allowed us to have that kind of a meal. And so that stayed with me. I was in the 7th grade during that time. And so, you know, we had back then teachers who were willing to accept our culture. And I know that we have, you know, teachers, white teachers who are willing to do that today. So I just wanted to, that's just an example of racial involvement, that, you know, they will look at our culture and be willing to embrace that culture in the learning. And so I just wanted to share that on that point with the whole racial challenge. And I'm hoping that in that challenge, they really are genuine about learning who we are. But one of the things I say all the time is that you don't have to be an African-American to teach our kids. If you come with a great love, if you come with a great understanding, that supersedes the whole thing. And so, but I just wanted to share it. I don't remember her name. It was at number 14 school, but that resonated with me and is still with me today. And then Superintendent Myers-Small, just with the donation of the Frederick Douglass books, his autobiography. One of the things that I hope that is taught is his speech when he was here in Rochester. You know, what is the slave? What is the 4th of July to the slave? And that was done right here in Rochester. And I'm hoping that they can do, those students can do an analysis of that, because that was very bold. Frederick Douglass to present that speech during that time. I had always thought of Frederick Douglass sort of moderate, but that speech, you know, tells it all. And that's something that I try to read every 4th of July about, you know, we are here in bondage, but, you know, the country is celebrating freedom. So if in that curriculum, they can really do a critical analysis of that speech that he gave. And lastly, I just want to say about Diane on that picture. She's been in our district 37 years. She looks 30, so she's been taking very good care of herself and being around our students. So, and just a congratulations to her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner LeBron?
Yeah, and I want to thank Commissioner Elliott for that too. I just wanted to say thank you for that whole conversation piece. I guess, Dr. Myers, my questions are really related to the school reopenings, to the hybrid model and so forth. And I guess when parents can expect to know a little bit more about what to expect in the coming year. I know we have some time because, like for Sophia, she's not starting till February. She's not in that first stage. But I also, I am anxious as a parent. So I just want to understand if there's a communication plan when parents can expect to hear more about whether their student is going to have the same teacher or not. All those details, if you can speak a little bit more, even about the timeline for communications.
Sure. So we are working feverishly, and the goal, not the goal, we will be communicating much more with more specificity before the students head into the winter break. So we're going to be able to give some more information around what that looks like, a little more specificity around teachers, because Dr. Miller has been processing the medical accommodation forms and looking through all of that information. It's just been taking a little bit of time, but the goal is to give much more specificity before our students go into break next week.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes. This is to Commissioner Elliott. Since I am an alum of School 14, I think a lot of people don't know where that is. That's where 58 is right now. And so I would appreciate if you identify what school that is next time you say 14.
Consider it done.
All right. Any other questions or comments for the superintendent? Leslie, thank you for your report. I reflecting on what Mr. Bin said. I don't know if he's still in the meeting, but he said that one of the things that the Parent Leadership Council is concerned about is stability in the district's superintendent spot. And the thing about history is you don't know that you're part of it until you reflect back on it. But I hope that Mr. Binns even watches your presentation today and understands that he will be part of history that will, we don't know what the future holds, but I think your presentation, how you've managed this very difficult, we have some examples of how people handle challenges, right? You've had, your tenure has begun in a very difficult time locally, nationally, and statewide, and you've handled it extremely well. And so I hope Mr. Binns looks back in history a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and sees why we have the stability that we have in the district. Because you don't have the answer to your concerns. Sometimes those answers are staring you right in the face, but you don't know that because you need more time. And I'm saying the presentations that you've made today will provide the kind of answer that people will see 3 years down the road. All right, so thank you for that presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I think it will instill confidence in people that we have the kind of stable leadership that this district needs. In terms of leadership and stability and progress, I introduce Dr. Nelms. You're up next.
Oh, wait a minute, wait. He gets all the pomp and circumstance. Like,
well, I had to summarize it.
Then 1, 2, 3, President White. My
job, Leslie.
Dr. Nelms.
Okay, Sean, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. All right, so I just want to take a couple moments to I didn't give a report last month, and I don't have any resolutions on the docket for this evening. So I want to take some time to acknowledge the work of our seniors and some other accomplishments happening throughout COVID. First is we celebrated this past week our top 10% of seniors, and we do this amazing ceremony every year that the counselors put on. We did it virtual this year, and I wanted to congratulate the top 10 students who are on the left side of the screen. And on the right side of the screen are the next students 11 through 17. I also want to thank the University of Rochester for doing what we've been asking for quite some time, and that's to aggressively recruit and support the college-going cultures of our students at East. And there is a new head of enrollment at East, at the University of Rochester, and they've assigned someone specifically to support our students during this transition. So I anticipate at the end of this year, naming a few of these kids on this list as full-time recipients for scholarships for the university. And that's something that they are, as part of their equity, diversity, inclusion plan, is to recruit more kids throughout RCSD. Remember, we have the Promise Scholarship for students throughout the RCSD for RIT and the University of Rochester. But this is a special scholarship. One of the trustees is willing to consider funding everything else that a student needs to attend college if those students are admitted and accepted and moving forward from East. So we're really excited about that. And it makes a huge difference when people are willing to minimize the type of debt that parents may encounter from college and to help start to create generational change in that way. So kudos to University of Rochester admissions and their continued support for the students at East beyond their senior year, and the rest of the students in the RCSD as well who get acceptance into the school. I want to especially thank Diana Garcia, who was our #1 top-ranked student this year. And she's going to study biology and neuroscience. She also is taking ASL, American Sign Language. And when we asked her, what do you want? How do you want to leave the world better than you found it? And she says she wants to ensure that everyone has access to healthcare. And so that is an ambitious goal, and she has the grades to do it, the ambition to do it, the drive, and she has the support from her immediate family, but also the RCSD and East family to support her on her journey. The next slide is to something that the board supported, man, a couple of years ago when the New York State Public High School Public Association did what I think was unfair in taking the eligibility away from 7 McGee. And I think if that were to occur next year, now that we're talking about equity, it's a cool thing. I think that decision would have been changed. But we fought hard. The board allowed us to really fight that and to make sure that we gave him every opportunity to play and access, and really not just to play football, but to bring to light that students in the RCSD and students throughout the county come from very differing situations and differing backgrounds. And we have to be cognizant of that. And I'm so proud of 7 McGee and his coaches and the athletic director for being his stability in a high school time in which was really rocky for him and his family. And as a result, he's going to graduate from East and he's going to attend the University of Oregon. And he is the last student athlete to attend a power school was 20 years ago. And that was Mo Jackson, who went to Syracuse. So it's been a long time for a student to attend one of the big universities who are known for their athletics and their academics, but for their athletics. And so we're proud to have 7 sign his letter of intent yesterday, his national letter of intent. He is considered the number 3 running back in the country for this class of athletes going to college this upcoming summer and fall. So congratulations to him. In that image, in that picture is Coach Steve Flagler, one of the coaches at East. The other he's a co-coach with James Van. Next to him is Big E. As everyone knows, Eric Robinson. He's an East graduate, now athletic director, doing amazing things. I mean, he is father, cousin, friend, counselor. And because he has a counseling background, he's really able to help navigate kids through the college application process. So he is a counselor and the AD. And so he also was a college athlete. So he really supports the programs for both boys and girls. And you'll see all those programs thriving at East. Then of course, Marlene Blocker, our amazing principal. I gotta tell you, I've worked with a lot of different leaders in my time, and it's always not good advice to name who's your favorite or your worst. But I'll tell you that she is top tier. She has the caring and compassion for every kid in that building, and she pushes and challenges the system in ways that make sense. And I think the academic progress that we've seen at East, she'll never admit this or want this said about her, but it's definitely because of her leadership and how she empowers others to do the work. As a reminder, the next slide, as a reminder to all of our RCSD seniors and families, get your FAFSAs in. College is here. I know this has been really tough with COVID and losing timelines in terms of college applications. I can tell you as a father who has a daughter who's applying, this is the time to do it. I mean, most of them should have been in by Thanksgiving, at least December 1. If you haven't gotten around to doing your FAFSA form, there's one more session for free, which is on Saturday, January 16th. They're doing it virtually. You can call in, you can get a reservation, and they will walk you through the process. You don't have to wait till the 16th. You can go to the website there at rochestercan.org, and they'll hook you up with a counselor as soon as possible. So for those parents who are nervous about giving the government your information, or is people too intrusive to the FAFSA form, if you don't fill it out, your kid won't get federal money or state dollars or Pell and TAP. So it's really important that you do it. It's a very safe process. Again, as a parent, I'm going through it right now, and it's a great resource for all. So I highly recommend parents in schools to remind parents of seniors to look at the FAFSA process and get started. The next slide is just a reminder to all of our students throughout our CSD. And I use the 3 tenets of East to advocate for self and others, to be tenacious, and to think purposefully. I say that to say that we have seen a steady decline in the academic performance of our students and attendance. And I know that there is no perfect solution for COVID, but there are kids who are struggling in this environment, and there are those who are doing extremely well. But we have seen a steady decline looking at our data for the academic performance of our students across the board, and the level of engagement that they're having with their attendance. So, we have been working with the state education department to see if we can create a consortium of individuals trying to tackle this same problem. But the reality is across the state, across the country, we see academic performance and attendance dropping. And we're going to continue to do what we can to support them. So to all the students out there, regardless of the grades that you're in, we really need you to refocus and to lean into the academics, and so we can do a better job of servicing your needs. A friend of mine mentioned once recently, she said, you've already survived 100% of your bad days. And so we have to say this has been a learning experience for everyone as in education, but the next 100 days could be much better than the previous 100. And we have to really focus on that and push for the last 2.5 marking periods. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, let me open up my big screen and see if there are any questions for Dr. Nelms. I don't see any. I did want to say, Dr. Nelms, on that last point, is there anything that the Board of Education could do? And I assume, Leslie, Dr. Myers, you have the same challenges. Is there anything we can do to help you address the challenges of attendance and the diminishing academic performance of our students? Is there anything that, and maybe not, but we should ask as a board, is there anything we can do to support you in trying to address this challenge? Either.
I think, you said earlier about, although we're not meeting in person, every person that you see at a grocery store or, at church or in the community, remind them to help their students stay focused and have them continue to do the work and to ask the questions and use the supports that are in school. We're at a point right now where it's not a matter of having more supports. Adding more adults to the problem may not fix the solution. It's really a matter of giving, for many kids who lost sports, they lost arts, they lost their clubs, they lost their friendship, they lost their teachers. It's just been a month daily reminder of loss. And so, logging in to school may not be the most engaging experience. So we're trying to make lessons more engaging, make lessons more fun. But really it's reminding them that this is an investment in them. So that last slide, what I had about our 3 principles about being tenacious and advocating for self and others, now is the time for us to really help students understand the importance of resiliency and to use this as an opportunity to say when things aren't going as well, that you have to understand that you're investing in yourself, you're doing this for yourself, and sort of helping students and families remember that education is part of their own journey. And if they detach from it now, it could have a lifelong impact. And so the board can keep delivering that message and using your platforms, that would be extremely important.
I see 2 board members have questions, but I know Dr. Myers wanted to respond to that question as well.
Sure, I'd just like to add, I see Anaya is still on, and this was one of the conversations that we had during Student Leadership Congress that, just like Dr. Nelm said about figuring out creative ways to connect and engage with students. And one of the things that I think we sometimes slide into with online learning is that more is more, right? And more is not more. It's about really tapping in and connecting with students. And Anaya and her peers were like, we just want to make sure our teachers understand that, this is hard. We're in this online environment and it is tough. And that, I think the other piece that we just have to continue to work on is that, social emotional check-in in the morning is so critical for our young people. All of us, yes, over the past couple days, I've been in this seat for over 11 hours, basically straight, except for bathroom breaks. That's it. It gets taxing on your brain and it's hard. So, we'll continue to work on the administrative side of trying to make sure we have professional development and giving strategies that enable our teachers to engage in different ways. And then it's just not remember the Charlie Brown classroom, the womp, womp, womp. And I'm not being pejorative to our teachers because they are working hard. So let me just be clear, but we're in it's a paradigm shift and we have to teach very differently than what we're used to being in person. It's different.
Vice President Elliott and Commissioner Clark, before I get to you, I did want to catch Ms. Simmons and see if she wanted to add anything to this conversation about, the struggles that students may or may not be having with this new environment that we're living in. Did you want to say anything, and I add to that?
I just think we're still trying to find a balance between how teachers can support students and how students can support teachers, you know, because it is a battle for all of us. I think we're still, you know, trying to find the connection to build with our new teachers and new students in the classroom, how we can engage with the learning from a computer when we're not receiving it like we usually are. I think the struggle is still there, and the balance of teacher to student ratio is still lacking. But I think we are, you know, on the right track to getting where we need to go by continuing professional developments. You know, social emotional time in the morning is vital for students, especially in secondary classrooms. And I think we are on the right track, and I think it's good process, good progress.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Vice President Elliott?
Yeah, I think that Anaya said it just crystal clear, because none of us has been here before. And some of the things that we want to encourage people with may not be the right things to encourage them with. Sometimes we, you know, I just think that because we don't always know. And so I think that the key thing for us is that we just got to be there. And sometimes you just can't say anything. You know, it's just a matter of being there, you know, and that we admit as adults that we don't know all of this. This is new to us too, you know, but that we're going to try to get through it together. And I think that we have to make allowances even for those who have not responded, and those who have made the decision that they're going to continue to learn remotely. I was totally surprised by the numbers, but I think that they are those students who chose to continue to learn remotely, you know, have made some decisions about their safety, about the decisions of the safety of their family. You know, I don't know if Dr. Nems or Dr. Myers-Small know if we have any students who they lost family members to COVID. I lost a family member indirectly to COVID. And then of course, you know, the mayor has lost her mom indirectly through COVID. You know, we don't have an idea of who's lost family members either here locally or around the country to this. And, you know, it could just be that people are just silent because they don't know what to say or don't know what to do. It is not an area that we are in control of over, you know. So even the social emotional techniques that we use may not be the right techniques to use in this situation. I don't know. I'm just saying that, and people, particularly students, I think, are not always able to articulate what they're experiencing. And again, none of us have been through this. So I think that we've got to make some latitude for these kinds of circumstances. And particularly if we know that there are people who are reacting differently than they would normally react. So I just think we've got to make some allowances. And I don't even think that it is, we may not necessarily can put any kind of strategy in place per se, because that may not work, you know. And we just have to, you know, just extend our love, just extend our support. And this may be an area that they may have to just learn and come through themselves based on their personal circumstances. So, you know, for me, it's a matter of, you know, allowing our students to find their own way in this situation. We may not be able to help them with it per se. I mean, we could be there to talk with them, but I'm just saying, this is new to us all. And I think that if we can just make sure that they know that we're here for them, we care for them, we love them, that's going to send a message better than any other strategy, I believe, that we can send, because we may not know what strategy works best for our communities. Thank you.
Thanks for saying, Vice President Elliott. Thanks for saying that, because I think one of the biggest differences too is that we went through the COVID pandemic in March. We had spring to look forward to. You know, the weather was going to be looking better a month from now, and we could, you know, space ourselves out. this go around, we have winter to look forward to,
Mhm.
just forcing additional isolation. So we have to be extremely cognizant of the mental health issues that are going to happen, and isolation and the loneliness that we're all facing, but particularly
Right.
kids who've never faced it before. So
Mhm.
yeah, we're definitely trying to lean into that. And I think, again, it's not about the academics at this point. I mean, it is in terms of their life, but we really have to help make them feel whole and healthy and safe inside. And that's been a challenge.
Yeah.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes, thank you, President White. I have a question and I also have a comment. My question is, while there's tremendous resources in the community, and as Superintendent Nelm says, we don't need more people, but my question relates to training, because many parents and guardians really don't know how to assist their students in accessing the internet and doing the homework. Are there any training programs out there for the parents? Or are there resources for them so that they can begin to at least assist in the process? That's the question, but I also had a comment. During Superintendent Myers-Small's presentation, I wanted to thank her, first of all, because she has always been totally involved in the community and engaging community-based organizations and using those organizations as a resource that benefit both. And I'm glad to see that that is continuing, because I will tell you, during my tenure as CEO of the Urban League, she was a guardian angel as it related to early recognition and Black Scholars Program and many of our programs. And I'm just pleased to see that your commitment to education and your outreach to community-based organizations continue. Thank you.
So I will say that we have, so to answer your question, Bill, I think we can definitely do more as a community in terms of engaging parents. Prior to the school year, we did a number of videos to help parents understand how to use Google Classroom and how to support those things and got them out. It doesn't mean that everyone got it, doesn't mean that it was the most useful. I mean, there was no assessment to see how useful it was, but we do. If we see a kid who's not logging on, we make a phone call home to make sure that it's not an internet issue. Try to assess what the issue is. Is it engagement? Is it internet? And we have found there's a myriad of issues that lead to students being disengaged, and we try to work through those. We have partnered with organizations like Rock the Future and Connected Communities, because they have a different type of connection with those parents in the community. But I think this is one of those situations where we have to look at a collective impact model and identify which organizations, if it's ABC, if it's Rock the Future, if it's all of them to combine to help address these issues. We've seen that when the community comes together, there's clarity. At least what Dr. Myers did last week with having the healthcare professionals come was an ideal example of collective impact. And so this here is we have a parent network called Pecan at Rock the Future, which is trying to create a coalition of parents who can help parents better navigate education in general, but particularly through COVID. So we'll look to expand that, and we'll continue to look into those. Yeah, right now, I think we're all trying to figure out how to create the secret sauce, and there's a lot of missing ingredients. so we're gonna keep moving forward. But thank you.
Commissioner Powell?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to react to that comment that the Superintendent Myers-Small made about teaching is different in this environment, in the online environment. And a real life example of that is, I was stopped by a neighbor the other day who was asking about Alex and how is he doing? And I'm not shy about saying that he's thriving in this COVID environment. But I was musing about how, as a theater major, how is he learning the same things about theater that he would if they were putting on a play and rehearsing and all of the things you assume are face to face. And it came up in the conversation that, in fact, performing arts is changing as a result of COVID, right? The way, just look at the late night shows and how they're doing it are, you know, in remote environments and what have you. So we don't even know what impact this is going to have on our immediate future post-COVID, but I think there's a lot of things that are going to be different forever, and our kids are learning it, you know, every day, one day at a time. Alex just leaned over to me just now to say that the idea of teachers reaching out to parents, while that might be especially important at the younger grades, he shared that the most impactful thing for him was when the teacher texted him directly. Just the fact that the teachers can text each student individually and make personal contact outside the classroom, you know, that's pretty special. That makes kids feel pretty special, knowing that they got an individual conversation with their teacher, even though they couldn't, it wasn't passing them in the hallway. It wasn't the teacher saying, can you stay after class? It was just, you know, the heartfelt, you know, I want to talk to you. You got the time right now? That sort of thing. So just wanted to share. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to share that. I want to back up to Dr. Nelms and say thank you for making that observation. Sure, we spent about 15 minutes talking about something that wasn't on the agenda, but clearly it is something that was on people's minds and is a significant part of our success or our failure. So thank you for being honest and making that observation about the challenges that we're having, because it did kick off a very important conversation. And to your other comment, Dr. Nelms, Dr. Myers-Small did do something unprecedented at our last meeting, which was to begin that conversation with the medical, the healthcare professionals. And it happened right here at the school board. The last time I remember a systems interaction like that, collective impact happened like that, was Vice President Elliott. You may recall you had the district attorney and the chief of police participating in a meeting. So connecting systems is essential in a situation such as ours, because we don't control everything at 131 West Broad Street. It's a lot of stuff happening outside. So thank you, Dr. Myers, for having that conversation last week. And Sean, thank you for bringing it up today. It was very, very important. And then finally, Sean, I did want to remark, I saw the press conference with Mr. McGee. And if folks have any doubt about what you're saying about him and his commitment, they need only watch that press conference, because that young man could have went anywhere, and he did. He had options, right? But he decided to stay home at East. And I know that's true because I've been to several games, and even when that young man could not play, he was on the sidelines cheering his teammates on. So you may not have the complete recipe, the complete sauce, but we have things going on in our schools, including East. And you heard at Frederick Douglass campus and Monroe and School of the Arts and a lot of our schools, there are ingredients to making kids and their families want to stick around. And watching Mr. McGee and his obvious love for, he even spoke, he said somebody was like his family at East. So thank you for that work, and thank you for bringing his success to our attention, because it reflects well on the entire district. All right, folks. Yes.
Mr. President,
yes,
I just wanted to share one more thing talking about athletics. I just want to thank both superintendents for having the great Olympian Kim Batten to talk with the students and staff, I believe. She had reached out to me a few years ago, and then we reconnected. We both did the show on everything sports. That was a podcast that we did that on together. And so I'm glad, I think that she has a lot to offer our students. And so I'm glad that Dr. Nelms and Dr. Myers-Small, that you all were able to connect with her. So thank you very much for that. Thank you.
I did want to also point out, this conversation about the mental health of our children, Leslie, remind me, wasn't there like a meeting, I happened to participate in it, I think it was something that the district central office sponsored where students, Ms. Simmons, I think you were part of it too, where we talked, what was that, kind of mental health check-in or, right? So this is an ongoing thing. I see Ms. Simmons shaking her head and Leslie is shaking her head as well. This is an ongoing effort and it's a healthy thing to do, to check in not only with the students, but the healthcare professionals. So thanks everybody on behalf of the board for this unprecedented, important work that you're doing. And to everyone, don't get discouraged. It's tough work, but you are the right people to do the work. So, all right.
I don't want to extend too much longer. I just do want to say, I think what was so important about what our young people did a couple of weeks ago is to really continue to destigmatize the fact that some of the three most powerful words you can say is, I need help.
Help.
Right.
Amen.
And so our young people are leading the way and they're being very vulnerable and transparent and candid with one another. And, you know, I had a death in my family, and the environment that they create made me feel comfortable enough to say, you know, I'm really sad right now. I lost my aunt and it's hard on me right now. So our young people are really leading the way of making sure that it's not a stigma to say, I need help, I'm struggling, I'm sad, I'm depressed. This is a lot. And also, I think we're also not only breaking through racial or ethnic barriers, because that is a stigma in Black and Brown communities, but also gender, where our males are saying, you know what, I'm struggling. And that was just so powerful. So Anaya, thank you for, excuse me, leading that work, because it's making a difference.
President White, I have just one other thing I just want to announce. And I think this is important to announce while we're talking about the vaccine. And, you know, I went on record by saying I'm not going to take the vaccine. However, I just wanted to, that our community is aware of, that the vaccine was created by a Black female doctor by the name of, and I may be getting this wrong, but Kamikia Corbett. Dr. Kamikia Corbett is the one that developed that vaccine. So I think that's important for our students and family to know that it was a Black woman who created that vaccine. Thank you.
I did not know that. All right, for those of us who are thinking, okay, we got a lot of business to take care of, we do, but again, I want to thank those who contributed and those that listened to this important conversation, because it is the elephant in the room, and we maybe took a bit of the toenail from the elephant today. So thank you for your indulgence and patience, but there is resolution to consider. So I'm going to attempt to be efficient in sort of bunching some of these resolutions together. If somebody has an issue with it, just let me know. But otherwise, we'll get through this in a way that's efficient, but also very effective. I first need a motion to discuss Resolution 524, which is a motion to resolution to grant tenure. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Elliott. Are there any questions or comments regarding Resolution 524?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner LeBron, does that need to be asked in executive session?
No executive session. I just want to again remind people that I personally am not voting on resolutions granting tenure during COVID and this time frame, but that is not a reflection to the individuals that I am sure are deserving a tenure. I just cannot personally in good conscience vote yes on tenure during this time. So I will be voting no.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Any other questions or comments regarding Resolution 524? I'm looking at the participant screen. I don't see any, so let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of Resolution 524 indicate by saying aye. Make sure your video is on. Aye.
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 Any opposition? I know there is one.
That's a nay.
That's a nay for Commissioner LeBron. I believe the ayes have it. Let's move on to the next resolution. I propose that we there be a motion to discuss resolutions 526 to 528. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy, seconded by Vice President Elliott. Any questions or comments regarding resolutions 526 to 528?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner LeBron.
On 526, I just want to strongly support this, and personally having worked with this individual when I worked in the district and knowing the work and the expansion of arts in schools beyond SOTA that this individual has been directly linked to, I fully support this individual not only staying in this position, but hopefully being fully tenured in the future. So that's all I have to say on 526. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding resolutions 526 to 528? There being no further questions or comments, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of resolutions 526 to 528 indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seems like the ayes have it. Next, I'd like the board to consider resolution 530. Is there a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Are there any questions or comments regarding resolution 530? There being none, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of resolution 530 indicate by turning on your camera and your audio and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Looks like the ayes have it, Madam Clerk. Next, I need a motion to discuss resolutions 535 to 545 minus resolution 541.
Motion.
That is a motion by Commissioner Malloy, seconded by Commissioner LeBron. Any questions or comments regarding resolutions 535, 545?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Just on the resolutions where we are doing recalls, can administration just remind the public and the community what a recall is again, so that they have an understanding?
Yes.
Good evening, Commissioner. So recall is for an employee that was previously furloughed or laid off, and we are returning them back to work from the previous decisions that were made.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron, for asking that clarifying question. I also should note that, as I frequently do when we begin this roll call of votes, is that the Board of Education, for those who haven't watched before, conducts its business, approves how the district can move forward by passing resolutions. And these resolutions are much more detailed than the numbers that were in the conversations that we're having. We get this material in advance, and that's why we're in a position to vote tonight. So I just wanted you all to know, by way of background, that's what we're doing. We're passing basically legislation so that the administration, Dr. Nelms and Dr. Myers-Small, can move and manage this district. All right, and next we have resolutions 549 and 550. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. I think I heard a second from Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments regarding resolutions 549, 550? I would just note, Ms. Simmons, thank you very much for the input from the Leadership Congress. We understand that you and your other leaders in the Congress support these two resolutions. Are there any other comments or questions regarding 549 and 550? I see Commissioner Malloy.
Just for a portion of, I believe, 550, I'm looking at 550B. This is regarding just sports. So I think my concern is that, this is the first that we're seeing this, so we didn't have this information until right before the meeting. I do see bowling on here, and I see indoor track, but I don't see swimming as one of the sports. And so I guess what I'm wondering is, do we have a swim coach? And I was also under the impression, just from the sports meetings that I had attended, that track wasn't going to be happening, indoor track, because of our use of local college facilities, and because local colleges are closed, that we weren't going to be able to have that. And I'm wondering if someone could perhaps explain just in more detail. Also, I'm concerned about the testing requirements for our athletes, and what are those requirements? Thank you.
Dr. Myers-Small.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Commissioner Malloy. We have Dr. Black and Dr. Cotto who can respond to those questions.
Yes, I'm having trouble with my video, but I am here. In reference to the swimming, I know that we do have, as we hire coaches, we have civil service coaches as well, and those don't come to board. I will share with the group as a whole that we just had our teacher staff was approved today in reference to certification. So they, given the challenges that we've had in bringing sports in, we've had to do some recruiting in the same time that we've been promoting program. And so we have one civil service employee that goes through a different process. And I don't necessarily send coaches to board that don't have all of their certifications. And this individual just completed all that as of yesterday. And I'll be working with Mr. Carling in reference to that particular piece. The challenges when it comes to programs, even as we transition and when we're in season, having to fill positions when indeed an individual has to take a leave or what have you, we do it in the midst and just making sure that they have all of what the state requires as far as the certification pieces. So I hope that answers that particular question. As it relates to the indoor track, I mean, as of right now, because that season is scheduled to start on January 4th, which is what the Section 5 has approved, we're still assessing it as we go. We're still looking at locations. The section has identified 2 locations and where practices or competitions can take place. And ultimately, it is a program that will support all of our students, given that right now we've got the bowling, the swimming that'll take place. So we'd like to find a way to keep our other students, to provide that overall kind of opportunity for all students as we go into the indoor. But a lot of that is still being assessed by the section as well as the district on if we kind of move forward. But given that it starts January 4th before another board meeting, it was important to at least have it on the table. As far as the testing, we are testing, given that we're in orange, 20% of our athletes coming back have to be tested, similar to what's been shared with Stacy in our health services department. We've tested 10% of our athletes going into for start as of tomorrow, and we'll test another 10% as we go into January 4th, when students come back from the recess. So we are doing that particular piece. We've had meetings with parents, we've had meetings with coaches. There was a meeting that took place just a little while ago with our families and informing them of all of the guidance and the procedures that'll follow for practice as well as for game. Screening of athletes prior to every practice, the temp checks that'll take place, and the actual testing that has taken place has been done with parent consent.
Thank you for that. I will just say the following. I didn't know about the parent meeting as a board member until shortly before this meeting because my daughter told me. So I think communication is key. We're fielding a lot of questions as board members in the community about this right now. And so clear communication about what's happening with athletics is really critical. So thank you.
I think the only thing that I want to add is that this is all contingent on what happens if we go to red. So we just need to continue to be mindful of that. And I don't want to damper, because I am a former athlete and I know the importance and impact of athletics. But if we go to red, there could be some different conversations that we're having. So I just want to put that out there.
You all set, Commissioner Malloy?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to say, prior to each meeting, I go through all the resolutions and mark which ones I'm going to vote yes or no so that I have it in front of me. And because of Ms. Simmons, I was really on the fence about 549. I have a lot of feelings around the whole process and notion of kids having to audition for school, although I understand that that's the practice and this is historical to the school. And I was leaning towards no, but I'm going to support Ms. Simmons and the student voice and vote yes tonight on that resolution. But I just want her to know that their voices are heard and sometimes can be persuasive to board members to change their vote.
Excellent, excellent. I see Ms. Simmons smiling. She appreciates the vote of confidence. So, all right. I don't see any more hands being raised. Thanks again, Ms. Simmons. Thank you, Commissioner Malloy, Commissioner LeBron, for asking those questions. So let's go ahead and vote on resolutions 549 to 550. All those in favor of resolutions 549 to 550 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition?
No.
Madam Clerk has recorded the vote. Seems like the ayes have it. Next resolution before the board is resolution 551. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second to advance
Second.
551 for conversation? I heard Commissioner Vice President Elliott. Any questions or comments regarding Resolution 551? I see Commissioner Malloy has raised her hand.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I'm looking at this list of a lot of plastic products, aluminum foil, etc. Lots of plastic products here. I'm wondering what green initiatives, if any, that we're considering as a district when we consider such contracts before us. I have environmental concerns, and with a district that serves, 25,000 students, I'm worried that we're contributing not only to global warming, but the propagation of plastic waste. So I'm wondering what are we looking at as a district to be more environmentally friendly? Thank you.
We'll need to put that on the log.
I can briefly speak to it from a procurement standpoint. We are looking at a lot of different products, especially with the trays, the plastic reusable, the tray, and some things are being actually mandated that we change, which is a good thing. So there are a lot of initiatives that the food service folks can probably speak a lot better to it because they see what's coming down the pike as well. But there is big movements to change a lot. The unfortunate thing is sometimes these costs are greater, but it's for a lot of good reasons. So we're just going to have to balance all that. So.
Thank you. And I think we should also look towards our students on these initiatives because you'd be surprised at what students can come up with. So I think we should be looking to the youth to maybe do a lot of this. We see that in our surrounding areas in Monroe County. And kids have a lot of really great ideas moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Madam Clerk, Ms. Wade, could you make sure that gets on the question log? Give the administration a little time to respond. I just want to note, this is old school. When I was coming up, we had paper straws. Who remembers that? When you go to McDonald's or something, you had a paper straw. Then now everybody got plastic straws. But have you noticed?
We're back to paper.
We're back to paper. And let me tell you something. I hear what you're saying, Commissioner Malloy, but there's nothing like plastic because that paper, I remembered, it would disintegrate on you, that straw, right? But anyway,
Save the turtles. Save the turtles.
But they're also aluminum reusable straws, Van, just as
really?
FYI. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Reusable straws. You can carry them with you, throw them in your bag.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Vice President Elliott? I see you kind of sitting back there.
I ain't giving up my plastic straw.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll give up plastic bags. I'm not giving up my plastic straws.
Aluminum straws, I use Camelback when I'm hiking, and they're hard to clean.
Are they?
Everything comes with a trade-off.
Yeah. All right, well, we've digressed enough, so I apologize for that, but I had to go back down memory lane. All right, next resolution to be considered are resolutions 552 to 563. Is there a motion?
I don't think we voted on 551, did we?
No, we didn't.
No, you're right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Malloy. We did not. Thank you. All those in favor, there being no further questions or comments, all those in favor of resolution 551 indicate by saying aye. Aye.
550, yes.
Aye.
We're on 550. You said 551.
No, I said 551, but.
Oh, I'm sorry, 551, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Madam Clerk, did you record that vote?
I did, thank you.
Any opposition? I don't think I asked for that. All right, we're good. Thank you, Commissioner Malloy, for catching that. I need a motion to discuss resolutions 552 to 563.
I'll move.
Second. I think I heard Commissioner Powell. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments regarding resolutions 552 to 563?
Yes.
I see Commissioner Clark has raised his hand. Commissioner Clark?
Yes, thank you, President White. When I was going through the various proposals, I noted that on the larger contracts, the MWBE participation rate ranged anywhere from 8.5% to 100%. And what I wanted to know is how does the MWBE participation rate factor into awarding of contracts? I know we use price, but how do we use MWBE participation?
Michael?
Good evening, everyone. Commissioner Clark. It is, we have to require benchmarks with which to hit based upon the trades. We did a presentation for the board in October, and those benchmarks are captured in that presentation. So I'll be more than happy to share that with you directly and refer it to the rest of the board as well.
Okay.
You know, that might be Commissioner Malloy. I don't know how your onboarding is going, Commissioner Clark, but that's a great question for onboarding, because obviously approving contracts is a big part of what we do. So I appreciate the question. And hopefully Mr. Smith can get you an answer for that. But we all should, when you do that, of course, why don't we go ahead and put that on the question log? Because I'm sure other board members could use a good refresher course on how we make those decisions. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for answering that and getting that response to Ms. Wade. Any other questions or comments regarding resolutions 552 to 563? There being no further questions or comments, all those in favor of resolutions 552 to 563 indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Ayes have it. Next, I need a motion to discuss resolutions 564 to 577 minus resolutions 568 to 573. Both those resolutions have been withdrawn. So when you vote, you're voting from 564 to 577 consecutive, except that 568 and 573 have been withdrawn.
As well as 570.
570, didn't see that. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. So I need a motion to discuss resolutions 564 to 577 minus resolutions 570, 568, and 573. Is there a motion?
Move for discussion purposes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Powell.
I'd say for discussion purposes, I do have a question.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a motion. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. All right, so let's begin the discussion. Commissioner Powell, you had a question or comment?
Ms. Wade mentioned resolution 570. The audit committee was 572, correct?
Yes, that was a CAFR?
Yes, the CAFR is 572, yes.
And that's already addressed.
572 has already been addressed, so so you'd have to take that one out. It was already voted on during the board.
That's right. That's right, Commissioner Powell, you brought that up during your audit committee. So when we cast that vote, we're not casting it for 570, 568, 573, and 572. All those motions have been either withdrawn, or the resolution have been withdrawn, or already voted on, as in the case of 572. Next, I see Vice President Elliott.
You're muted.
I was trying to get to the resolutions because I have a question about 575, but I don't remember what the resolution was. I didn't write it down. But 566, let me just start from there if I could. I didn't realize that in addition to just regular educational programs that our students also who have special education needs also can select a charter school. Is that correct? So if it's specialized services, but also just regular academic programming, they also can attend a charter school? Okay. All right. So it'd be interesting to know, I want this question in the question log. How many of the students who are special, have need specialized services go to a charter school?
Okay.
And then 567, is that something that the union, that the teachers union can pay for? Why do we have to pay for that service? That's 567.
Going back to look.
I can get the regulation and make sure that I provide it to everyone. Good evening, everyone. But the teachers, centers, the grant requires it to pass through the district, and therefore it has been covered under a regulation that was established I want to say it was established in the late 90s, that this is the process for that funding for the teacher centers across the state. So this is something that is codified at the state level, and I can make sure that we provide that additional information about the funding path to everyone in the question log.
Okay, all right. Who's the, so was it the union that got the grant? Was it the RTA?
No, it's a grant that's established for teacher professional development.
Okay.
And what we do is we provide the funding so that the teacher center can be operational. And so you see the grant, it has to be administered and distributed through the district. So it's to make sure that we have a path and a mechanism for our teachers to have professional development, but the path of the money must go through the district to establish the teacher center support.
Yeah, I thought that the RTA ran the teacher center. Is the teacher center ran by the district or by RTA?
So it's a teacher formed board. So the board is made up of teachers. So the teachers there are probably RTA members, but the pass-through for the grant funding to continue the support of the teacher center comes through the district.
Okay, thank you. And then 575, I just had a question on that whole resolution around providing us with technical services. So if someone could just talk me through that whole resolution, I'd appreciate that.
Hello, so for 569, is that the question for resolution 569?
575.
570.
I think it may be Glenn that should be responding to that.
I think it is Glenn, and he actually, I had questions around that one too in previews, and Glenn sent some great detailed explanations, but he's on.
Good evening, everybody. Is this regards to 569?
575.
About education superhighway, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I apologize for the confusion. Education superhighway is providing us an opportunity unlike we've ever had before. We've surveyed our families to see who's had reliable internet. And really, we've gotten some inconsistent feedback in terms of identifying families that have had reliable internet. That being said, what we're going to be doing is providing the education superhighway addresses of all of our students with no names attached. They're then going to work with internet service providers such as Spectrum, Frontier, and Greenlight. And then they're going to put it against their database, so we'll know exactly who has home internet service provider. And then therefore, we can start to target families, at least while students are in grades K through 12, and help support those families with a home internet service provider is what our goal is. And I think this is just a wonderful opportunity for us to support our kids in extending the classroom.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner LeBron, did you have a question on that before I go on to my next question?
No, I have some other questions, so I'm gonna let you finish yours.
Okay, 576 is the, am I saying this right? 575, yeah, 576. I guess my question is why, if this is a 2019-2020 resolution, why are we just seeing it now at the end of the year?
Scrolling.
I'm sorry, it was, I'm looking, let me just make sure I'm looking at the right one. I sort of put my notes on a different sheet. Okay.
It's for the calendar year, 2021.
Okay, so this is December. Why are we just seeing it now?
It's for January.
Did I just freeze?
No, I'm here. It's for. It's for
You can
the
put it in a question log.
calendar year.
Say that again, Chris.
It's for the 2021 calendar year.
So was there a mistake in the?
It's a renewal to run through 2021. So it was originally for the 2020 year, and then it renews for one more year through December 31st, 2021.
Okay, I don't think that's what it's, maybe it is saying that and I just didn't pick
In the
it up.
second paragraph.
Okay, yes, all right, my apologies.
Or third paragraph.
Yeah, okay.
Being renewed through 2021.
Okay, thank you. I misread that. And then 577, my last question has to do with the cost of that. I see what looks like per unit cost. And perhaps you can't give me that, but why don't you tell me whether or not you can give me? I see a $2.20 administrative fee cost, and then there is another looks like per unit cost of $3. So do we have any idea historically what we've paid out in this?
This is consistent. This is a per month per member, and so we're charged by the number of employees that we have that could potentially make benefit of lifetime benefit solutions, which allows our staff to use flexible spending accounts.
And I would just say my last remark with regard to, I'm hoping, Madam Superintendent, that that's something that we can renegotiate, given our dire financial situation, that we can't always, cover, in my view, we may not always be able to cover people for life, or not at the rate that we've been covering them in the past, given our financial situation. So I would just, leave that with you, Madam Superintendent. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner LeBron?
Yeah, my comments, they're not questions, but they are comments to number 576. And then I do have a clarifying question on 570, if that one was pulled or not. So I'll start with 570, if that one is still in this motion or if it was pulled.
It was pulled.
Okay.
570 was pulled.
570 was pulled, so then I don't have to ask any questions around that one. But for 576, this is the same one that Commissioner Elliott was just referencing to a little while ago. My comments are related to the fact that even though we are self-insured, I cannot recall my time on the board having seen any proposals for health insurance through any of the folks that go out and do this work. Even though we are self-insured, there is a company that we hire to go out and find the rates for us and so forth. I would actually like to see us perhaps get a few bids and have discussions as a board, so that we can look at ways to lower that cost for us. With the cost of healthcare rising, I'm concerned whether we'll be able to continue to afford it at the rate that we have it, but I also don't want to take away benefits from people that need benefits, right? So I would like us to figure out a more balanced way in the future. So I will not be voting yes on this one, but my recommendation to the full board and to the administration is that we look at our self-insured coverage and get some different bids from other folks.
Superintendent Myers-Small, do you want to respond to that at all or no?
We need to look at that. I think we should put that on the log for further follow-up.
All right. Commissioner LeBron, were you all set? All right.
Yes.
Commissioner Powell?
Yeah, on the topic of the third-party administrator, I struggle with this every time it comes up for renewal, because Blue Cross Blue Shield has policies on their books that limit subscriber access to the most cost-effective care providers, namely midwives. And I have raised this issue at the very beginning exhaustively. The only problem is that all providers that I'm aware of have similar constraints. MVP, Aetna, they all have similar practices. And when they serve us as third-party administrators, they impose their rules on our subscribers. So I do struggle with this. And I don't think, ultimately, I don't think it's going to end until we have a single-payer healthcare system nationwide or statewide at the very least. So I'm not going to hold my vote hostage on this issue. The third-party administrator essentially either, I don't recall entirely how they make their profit, but it's essentially either on a subscriber basis or on a flat rate. So they don't, the cost of healthcare is related to the benefits that we have conferred through our negotiations, and that's not something that this resolution would address. If the only way we're going to substantially reduce our healthcare costs is if we're able to negotiate different terms of what we're going to cover as an employee-based healthcare provider. The third-party administrator will have very little impact, except insofar as what I said when I started my comments, which is that their practices in putting healthcare providers on their participating list is discriminatory, and it blocks some of the most cost-effective providers in our community. As I say, I'm not going to hold my vote hostage on this issue, however.
Commissioner LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, I'm not holding a vote hostage. I am voting my conscience and saying no, that we need to, as a board and as administration, look at this as a growing debt and expenditure on our budget year to year and figure out a way to reduce this cost. And I don't think that going through the same broker year after year, because we're self-insured, is the best practice to not look at all other options that are potentially out there. I looked at the state employees' health insurance. They're not paying the same amount that we're paying, and they're getting equitable type of benefits. I think it's out there. I think we need to make this an issue that we look at. It is one of a large debt in this district year to year in our budget. So that's all.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Mr. President, I just want to clarify
Sure.
that my remark about holding hostage was not directed at Commissioner LeBron. It was directed to the administration so they could, if they're counting votes prior to the official, that comment was directed to the administration so that they knew where I stood. It was not directed at anyone else. And I apologize if it seemed, if my remarks appeared to have any different direction.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron and Commissioner Powell for that conversation. Now it is time to go ahead and take a vote on this matter. Just to remind you all, we are voting on resolutions 564 to 577. Before we do that, Commissioner Malloy, were you going to provide any commentary with respect to resolution 575? That was a donation gift. I don't know. Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I forgot that we were going to be doing that. Yeah, of course, of course. Let me just in regards to that resolution, I just want to say on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank Education Superhighway for their donation of almost $1,500 to the district to assist our students in more readily accessing broadband internet services by identifying the specific access needs of our families. And their service will have a direct benefit for our students and their families during this really challenging pandemic period. So we are incredibly grateful for this partnership with your organization, and we thank you for your generosity.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy, for performing that very important function. We sometimes forget in this craziness of trying to get stuff done to say thank you. And we appreciate you sharing those words on behalf of the board. So back to the business of approving these resolutions or getting a vote on them. Just for background, remember we're voting on resolutions 564 through 577 minus resolutions 568, 570, 572, and 573. There being no further comment, let's go ahead and make sure our mics are turned on and our video is on, and indicate whether you support these resolutions by saying aye. Aye.
I minus 567 is a no for me.
Okay.
Aye.
All right. And are there any further no's? Commissioner LeBron has just indicated her
I'm
no.
sorry. Yeah, and 576 is also a no.
Madam Clerk, did you record that?
Yes, that's a no to 567 and 576 from Commissioner LeBron.
Thank you. Appears that the ayes have it, and that would complete our business of resolutions for today, December the 17th, 2020. That doesn't mean we're done. There is some unfinished business from a prior meeting. Commissioner Powell, you have proposed resolutions 578, 579 that were presented to your colleagues by email more than 48 hours ago. Do you want to bring us up to speed on where we're at? There was some conversation about these or these issues at a finance committee meeting. So go ahead.
Thank you for the floor. I believe the resolutions are self-explanatory in the whereases clause. There are two buckets of funds in the fund balance section of our financial statements that are currently listed as assigned, which is the prerogative of the superintendent and her administration to designate assigned versus unassigned. Because they both have significant import, one of them being backed by a memorandum of agreement with our bargaining units, and the other being extensively discussed, the transportation extensively discussed among the board members as important to hold in reserve so that it's there when we resume to full in-person learning and all of the transportation expenses that accompany that. And so the concept is to elevate those to committed status, which only the Board of Education can do by resolution.
Are there any comments or questions regarding those proposed resolutions? I see Commissioner LeBron has raised her hand.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and comments. So having had a chance to review both of them, the transportation one, Van, you mentioned two numbers for the resolutions. The ones that were sent on my screen don't have any numbers. So I don't know which one is which or which number is going to be. Oh,
Madam Clerk, could you clarify that? I got those from the clerk.
Yes. Yes. So the committed fund balance resolution will be assigned resolution number 578, and the committed, the other one, which is regarding transportation, will be 579.
okay. So thank you for that clarification. So on number 575, I have no issues with that resolution. I think that that is a conversation exhausted through both our CFO and our superintendent over a number of finance meetings over the last couple of months, that they were going to commit to putting that money in a separate item line and not touching it at all. So if it just reinforces it through the board's resolution, I'll support that one tonight. As far as 578, I have a couple of concerns about ushering this type of resolution, with this being the first time we're having a conversation about it. I'm concerned about whether there'll be any implications in other budget item lines. I want to uplift that, yes, historically, previous superintendents and CFOs at the direction at times from previous superintendents under budgeted in that item line. Certainly that is not the only budget item line. And so if we just say that only health insurance was under budgeted, so was charter schools. And if we're not going to commit to putting more money into the charter school line that we have historically under budgeted, why would we do it only for one and not all of the other budget item lines? In addition, I do want to state we are in the process of changing our fund balance policy per Dr. Jallo's recommendations. And that has not, those updates have not been finalized by this board. I'm also concerned that this particular resolution was not vetted through administration or legal. And I would like to hear their feedback, both on whether there will be consequences or some implications on other budget item lines. And again, I would like to give them the time to do that, as this was originally sent out on Tuesday around 4:30.
I saw you raise your hand, Commissioner Powell, but I do want to go through the people who have raised their hand. Vice President Elliott?
Yes, Mr. President. In reference to, I can't be sure of which resolution was 575 or, but let me just say the one about transportation. I guess I'm unclear about the need to have a committed fund balance, if I'm using the right language, with regard to transportation. So Commissioner Powell, can you elaborate on the need, your perspective on the reason that you believe we need to have, if I'm correct, a committed fund balance for transportation?
Well, yeah. Oh, do I have the floor, Mr. President?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
If I could back up to Commissioner LeBron's question about the elevating the health insurance rate stabilization fund reserve, as opposed to all, her question was as opposed to all other budget items. Here's the distinction between this and those other items. This is a balance sheet item. It's not in the budget. It's not part of our revenue stream, and it's not part of our expense stream. The fund balance is presumed to be something we hold in our on our balance sheet, and that's why you only ever see it on the annual financial reports. It's we talk about it in our finance committee meetings because we are constantly talking about cash flow and replenishing the fund balance, but it is not part of the budget except insofar as the budget talks about depleting the fund balance or restoring the fund balance. Ongoing funds within the fund balance are not part of our budget process. To Commissioner Elliott's point about the transportation, I was hoping that what I wrote in the whereases were clear enough, but the important thing about transportation aid is that it comes on a delayed basis, right? So in 2018-19, I'm sorry, we're in 1920. So in 2018-19, we were reimbursed at 90% of transportation costs that we incurred the year before. And the amount of money that we actually spent in that year was reduced because that was the first year, that was the beginning of COVID, was the end of that fiscal year, right? So we essentially we received more funds from the state last fiscal year, which ended June 30th, than we spent. And we know that when we ramp up, it's going to cost us more than we're going to get in that year, in whatever year that is, in transportation reimbursement aid. So it will, this particular fund would only be committed for a very brief time, until the next fiscal year. But committing the funds is committing the funds. And this is something that the administration has worked very hard to get our support for. So what's the strongest way of signaling our support? By committing those funds.
And next, see Commissioner Adams, he's been waiting.
Yeah, this is the area here that is. I'm going to I haven't had enough time with this one. I really haven't, and I've always talked about this. And I'm just going to support. For right now, I'm going to support my superintendent right on this resolution. That's where I'm at with that. So I'm just letting people know that I am not supporting this.
Commissioner LeBron?
Yeah, so I just want to go back to some of the comments being made that this is the best way to show administration. It is not the best way to show administration by presenting them with 2 resolutions without prior conversations, certainly no conversations and financial previews where we do have a parent rep that also gets to put eyes on all of our resolutions and all the things that are going to be presented and also ask questions on behalf of other parents. For me, it doesn't feel like this is how we support administration. They didn't know about it till Tuesday, like I said, at 4 and 4:30. It's being presented again like new business. We still do not have actual feedback from the administration. They didn't ask for this. We have no feedback from them. We also didn't have an opportunity for our legal to vet it, to let us know what the implications would be. I also have to say, I feel like I advocate strongly and wholeheartedly for us to have a balanced budget in all ways possible. And I get that, you know, we have some challenges ahead of us, but I also would not want to force the administration to put money in any budget line and assign it without understanding what the implications might be. And I do think as a board, we have an obligation to look at every single budget item line that we possibly can, squeeze it to the maximum so that any cuts that we know we're going to have to make are minimized as best as possible. So with that said, I'm going to ask for a motion to table this until the next finance meeting in January. Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, a motion to table goes directly to vote. People cannot comment. I would note that not everybody has had a chance to speak on the underlying motion, but I can't, so because there's a motion to table. So all those in favor of the motion to table indicate by saying aye. No.
Oh.
Take that back. I didn't mean aye. I heard 2. How many ayes were there, Madam Clerk? Mine was not an aye, by the way.
I was just about to ask if you can do a roll call for this one. I'm sorry.
Okay, that makes sense. Commissioner Adams?
Aye.
I'm a no. Commissioner LeBron?
Aye.
Vice President Elliott?
Yes.
Commissioner Malloy?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Powell?
No.
And that's it. So it appears that the ayes have it. I counted 4. So the resolution has been tabled, and it will. We didn't get a for a date certain. Can we get a date? Can we get a date that the 4 members can agree to, Madam Clerk?
Yes. Yes. The next available special meeting will be January 5th.
No.
Actually, I asked for it to be at the finance meeting, part of my motion, and the next finance meeting is January 19th.
January 19th? All right, so I will assume that that was favorable or agreeable to the 4 that voted for it, unless
5.
somebody tells me other.
Is it 4 or 5? It was 5.
For 5? All right, my math isn't so good. Dr. Myers will tell you that. All right, so it has been adjourned to the next Finance Committee meeting, and that's where we'll take it up again. So, and that applies to both 570 and 579. Is that right, Commissioner LeBron? That was your motion to table both those? Because I noticed you said you didn't have any opposition to 579, but
I don't, but I would still like to hear from administration.
Sure.
And legal.
Okay. Absolutely. Okay, so it's been adjourned to the next Finance Committee meeting. That's 578, 579. And I would suggest that Commissioner Powell, since you're leading this particular effort, that you speak to administration in advance of that meeting and speak to Commissioner LeBron and making sure that that is put on that agenda for that day. All right.
Yeah, my conversations about fund balance have already begun with the administration, and I'll keep you all posted.
Excellent. Okay, all right. That leads to new business, and there is none. That was unfinished business, by the way. And we do have some matters to discuss in executive session. It is 9 o'clock, folks, for those citizens that are watching this Board of Education meeting. We do find ourselves on occasion having to discuss matters with our council or discuss matters relating to issues like contract negotiations or individual employees. So I need a motion from a colleague of mine to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing a particular person and or getting legal advice from our council. I heard Vice President Elliott make that motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Malloy. All those in favor of going to executive session for the purposes just described, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, ladies and gentlemen, folks watching, we probably will come back. We most certainly will come back out of executive session. We have to do our poll. We may even have to vote on some things. We encourage you to stick around if you can. If you can, if you can't, good night and be blessed. It is 9:42, and as promised, we came back into public session because the Board of Education does in fact have some business to take care of. There is a resolution. It is called Resolution 580. I need a motion to advance for conversation, Resolution 580.
I'll
move it.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Vice President Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Clark. Any questions or comments regarding Resolution 580? Doesn't appear that there are any questions. So, Madam Clerk, we're going to go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of Resolution 580 indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposition? We are now going to take our survey and close it up as soon as that survey is done. As my colleagues finish up the survey, I want to, on behalf of the Board of Education, wish everyone listening and those that are not a happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, and a Merry Christmas. Are we all set, Madam Clerk?
We are waiting on just 2 more.
So there are no meetings next week, correct?
No, there are no meetings until January 4th. And I just want to let everyone know that I will not be in office starting tomorrow until the
Look, you said that with such joy.
I don't blame her.
I hope you remind everybody and no emails.
I'll be back on the 28th to prepare for the organizational meeting.
Great, Kalia, will you be there if I drop something off there for you?
Yes, I have to do loose ends tomorrow, so I will be in the office, but I'm not supposed to be working, but I will be in the office.
Thanks.
Will you be in the office available to take the cookies from Leslie if she happens to bring them by?
No,
I hope for myself as well.
Leslie, why you look at me like that? I'm just trying to get you to
I
fulfill your
heard
promise.
that, Mike Schmidt told me we've got squirrels in Central.
I know you got mice and rats up in there. I do know that. I have seen them. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Well, let me just say first that just wish everybody a great holiday, great Christmas, and wish you all well. And we've got to continue to do this work on behalf of our children and families. So just enjoy your time off too, as I will with my family. So happy holidays, happy Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's
Happy
great.
holidays, everybody. Did we take a vote to adjourn?
No, we didn't. We need a motion.
I think that your wonderful comments, Vice President Elliott, are a motion is seconded by Commissioner Adams. All those in favor say aye and good night. Good night.
Bye.
Happy holidays, everybody. Be safe.
Yes.